Let's talk about some action before the international break comes in. Of course, everything happening this weekend, including Arsenal against Manchester United. Arsenal, who came off a disappointing 2-2 draw against Fulham, and Manchester United coming back from 2-0 down to beat Forest last weekend, though both of them have not started to what their managers would have hoped for, Miguel Arteta and Erik ten Hag, respectively. Shaka, let's begin with you. Arsenal, Manchester United, historically speaking, reputation-wise, can be a good one, but it can also be a really boring game. But both of these teams have not started that well. What do you expect?
Listen, Arsenal at home, I don't think Arsenal have started that well. I don't think they need me to tell them that. I think what has hurt them is their inability, or at times it feels like an unwillingness to kill games off, to just kind of see things out. That I don't think is needed and keeps teams in games. And while you can look at Fulham as an example of that, yes, they gave Fulham a rather ridiculous early start. Again, I don't think at any point over the last 3 years we've been able to say Shaka played a really poor ball up until now. So you take that for what it is. But you get yourselves back in front. And I just don't think that Arsenal at any point at that point in taking the lead, force their superiority over Fulham. And at one with one goal in it, you keeping the opponent in it. And Fulham gets a point, deservedly or undeservedly. That's for others to decide. And that's my big issue with Arsenal, that at times they look good, at times Arteta has tried to force Havertz down our throats. We'll get to that. But more to the point, I think for as good as Arsenal are, they haven't been able or willing to kill teams off. Counter that with a Manchester United, who I think have had some good fortune on their side. Yes, I'm thinking of that Wolves result. Have maybe been unlucky. Yes, I'm thinking about that Spurs result and the no call on Romero. But all in all, I don't think Manchester United have at all looked good this season. Again, so much is being asked of Marcus Rashford, and while he carried Manchester United in the last half of last season, particularly after the World Cup, I think unfair to expect that again of him. And they simply haven't strengthened in a way and in the positions that they need to. And as a result, Manchester United again looking a shadow of who we expect them to be. I say that, but I hear Mark Ogden saying in my ear, Manchester United as a club today are nowhere near the club that we remember them to be.
With that, Dalen Cuff, what do you expect this weekend then, Dalen, the Arsenal fan Cuff? And give me some odds as well on this game, because given from everything that Shaka just said, which is very true, neither are perfect, both are vulnerable, both looking for something. What do you expect?
First of all, I expect to be overserved. I'll be there, fellas. I'll be there in section 15. Let's go.
Nice.
I will be at the match. I cannot wait. What I expect is hopefully a better performance, because Shaka, she summed it all up there. And as an Arsenal fan, the difference was after that Crystal Palace result, when you go down a man, and they did see out that game, and they find a way to win 1-0, not in a good performance, but you're down a man. It's some of the things that they haven't done in years past, because consistently win ugly. It was an ugly game, wasn't a good performance, but they found a way to win on the road, down a man the last 30-some minutes or so. Then you're up a man at home, up a goal. That was the puzzling piece to me. Like, there's got to be like a go for the jugular mentality that the team just didn't show. They wasn't like, we're going to put our foot to the metal, we're going to dominate this game, and we're going to take over and win the game. It was sounded like Newcastle had the same problem. It was like almost like we're going to see this out, but we're up a man, up a goal at home. Like that was concerning, and also concerning. We'll get to Havertz in a second, but from a tactical perspective, as soon as they put Zinchenko on, they took Havertz off. Vieira went in the middle. They kind of looked like they did more of last year with Zinchenko going to the midfield, and Partey came off as a right back, and Ben White went out there. They looked more tactically like they did last year. They looked more comfortable, and they looked better, and that helped kind of turn the tide of that game in the second half. And ultimately, they didn't win the game, but they looked better going forward and getting and being productive and getting goals and getting some scoring opportunities before, like I said, the last 15 minutes or so did not have the desire to continue to play on the front foot for some reason, it seemed. Now, this is the concern. Do you try to continue to evolve like he has early in the season when it hasn't looked good, or do you revert back to what has worked last year and seemed to work as far as tactical perspective in the last match? I hope to see that. I think they're better in that way. If Zinchenko gets to full health, he adds something different coming out of left back spot and into the midfield. And now we can go to Havertz, because I think that is a huge issue in terms of where he is in the field, in terms of lack of being able to finish or putting himself in positions. Arteta believes in him. I don't know if he believes himself. Seems like a very not confident player that he should have made a run the other day, and he takes 2 more steps. Their ball comes right across 6. He's a goal. He just stopped his run. Like, there's little things that he's just not doing. And at times he could turn and go and attack the defense, and he's passing backwards. And he just looks out of sorts.
Well, speaking of Kai Havertz and the criticism on Kai Havertz and the fact that it nearly cost £70 million to get into Arsenal, here's our very own Craig Burley with some thoughts about Kai Havertz. I'll give you 2 guesses to see where he went with this one. Check it out.
There is nothing in this Kai Havertz performance or performances that suggests this player is any different, not one iota, than the player that was performing for Chelsea. The only difference is he's wearing a red shirt. He's still got no confidence. He's still not influencing games. He's still giving the ball away. He's still not getting in the correct positions at the right time. He made 1 or 2 good runs in the first half. But at the moment, there's a £70 million burning problem in Arteta's pocket, because he's, in my opinion, Dan, he's going to have to drop him. Arsenal are a better side without him in the team, and Trossard, but Havertz is he's the elephant in the room, because he was big money and he came from a rival in Chelsea. If Miguel Arteta wants to put Arsenal's best 11 on the field next time they play, it involves Kai Havertz being on the bench, because he's not gained his confidence back. We're not seeing anything different from him. In fact, he's a passenger at the moment in this Arsenal side, and they don't need passengers, because Man City don't have passengers, and they're the team to catch.
Preach.
Shaka, I agree, and Dalen, but Shaka, I'll come to you first. I agree with Craig's point, but the elephant in the room was not an elephant that decided to voluntarily go in there. Like, Arsenal brought them in, £70 million. Arteta, I spoke to him in the summer. He spoke very highly of him and what he can do. Is part of this problem Arteta's problem on just the way he's utilizing him, or is it all on Kai Havertz?
No, it's Arteta's problem. It was Arteta who sanctioned this move, as far as we can tell, given everything that he said. It was Arteta who praised Kai Havertz and as to how good a footballer he is. It was Arteta who picked up his starting lineup on the first day of the season and played him for, I think he played him for the full 90 minutes. And I don't remember him doing anything on that day either. Listen, I understand. I said similarly about Pep Guardiola earlier in this broadcast. Sometimes managers see things in players that I don't get, and I never got this one, and absolutely still do not. But in my opinion, it was clear that it wasn't working. It wasn't working in the Community Shield. Then don't play him. Don't start him. Let him come off the bench. Let him figure out his role in this team. Let him figure that role out on the training ground. And let him figure that out on the training ground, and then include him slowly but surely. But it almost felt, and maybe I'm being unfair to Mikel Arteta here, but it almost felt like, because of the criticism, his position was, I'm going to show you exactly what I see in Arteta. And regardless of how he plays, I'm going to praise his performance, and I'm going to keep picking him. When it was clear to most anyway, that what Arteta was bringing to Arsenal certainly wasn't making them any better, and I think was keeping them back an awful lot.
Shaq, I totally agree. The one thing I would add too is I think Arteta's a great manager. I'm happy he's the manager of the club that I support. That said, real leadership, sometimes you have to look yourself in the mirror, and because you thought something on Monday, it may need to be different in 2 or 3 weeks. He has to be willing to adjust. If he continues to put him out there and performances are like this, you have to be willing to pull him, and your pride and your hubris cannot factor into it. And that does seem to be a little bit of a factor right now.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.